And we are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, we are going to be talking about the top watch brands that collectors trade the most with us at Delray Watch Supply, delraywatch.com. I'll explain what I mean about this, but first let me thank you for coming back. What we do, if you're new here, is we talk about watches, vintage watches, and also about the watch market, because as you know, for those of you guys that do follow this channel and my business partner Federico, we buy, sell, trade pre-owned watches at delraywatch.com. You can check us out there, like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Comments below, you know what to do, and also don't forget to check me out on Instagram, The Real John P. So, the topic: watch brands that collectors try to trade the most. Now, let me give a little bit of an explanation about this, because I want to make sure we're very clear about what I mean, because I don't mean anything negatively about this at all. But as a watch dealer, we do handle a pretty fair amount of transactions and people that want to trade and get into something different, I would say. So there's a fair amount of people that do just want to buy a watch or sell a watch, but there's also a number of people that want to trade. They want to get into a different brand or a different watch. Now, we work predominantly with watch collectors and not so much the casuals. In the watch community, I always like to explain it to those that are not in the watch industry as there being casuals and collectors. If you're watching this video, you're probably not a casual, but if you walk into a Rolex store or a Breitling store for that matter, and you're not shopping online for something that you know exactly about what you want, then you're probably a casual. Now, of course, there's outliers, but wrapping this back into the topic, I analyze the data. We've got a proprietary system that we've built, and we track, what people like, what people don't like. And I can't say that necessarily the brands that we're going to talk about here, and people don't like, but I think they don't stay in the collections as long as some of the other brands. So the first brand that I've noticed, and it really is a shame, because it's Breitling. Now, we get a ton of calls and emails about collectors looking to sell or trade their Breitling, and because of basically Breitling selling to CVC Capital Partners, the Asian investment firm, and this happened a few years ago, and they dumped a lot of inventory on the market. That forced and caused the prices of Breitling models that existed at that time up until about the last 6 months to a year when they released their recent lineups. It just caused the prices to tank and go unbelievably low. And during that period, you had a lot of gray market dealers and a lot of traders that took advantage of that and were able to sell Breitling watches at very attractive and affordable compared to retail prices. And so you had a large buy-up of these pieces from collectors, and what you see is the prices are very low. And so, unfortunately, if you do have a Breitling and you want to get rid of it, and it's not a model that's brand new or current generation, it can be oftentimes challenging to trade into something, just knowing that there are still some places that have these Breitling closeouts, as they're called. So Breitling is the number one brand, and it's always it's just always not the greatest conversation to have, knowing that the Breitlings do take quite a hit. But on the flip side of that, if you are interested in Breitling, they're a good brand. They have some of the best cases for the price point in the market, I believe, for their sports watch lines. You can't go wrong with such a great value if you buy it pre-owned or you hunt around and get one on eBay or the forum. So on the other side of that, it's a good deal to be had, so you can't complain on that end. Now, the next one, Tudor, and some of you are probably pretty surprised by that, but this is something that I've been talking about, I've been noticing it, I've been looking at the trends, and I've been analyzing what's been going on with Tudor, and I think that Tudor has become a bit of a brand that comes out with something new, and the Tudor collectors are attracted to the latest and the greatest, and then Tudor comes out with something new and exciting, and that guy doesn't want to have a whole box full of Tudors, so he sells that Tudor on the forums or someplace else, and he gets the latest Tudor. You saw it from when you cycled through Tudor, when they released the Black Bay, and then they came out with new versions of the Black Bay, and then no one knew that they were going to go on and on to release all of these versions of the Black Bay that all are unique and novel and have the same kind of feel as Rolex without being Rolex and having the price point. And then you had the Black Bay 58, and you had the Harrods, and you had all of these. And what we see And what I see is there is a bit of a pullback. I'm noticing that overall the demand for Tudor as a brand is continuing to rise, at least through our lens here, in this kind of aftermarket pre-owned area. But what I'm seeing is the demand for each individual piece is going down because there are so many additional Tudor watches on the market. When Tudor only had a black bay, or a black bay with a red bezel, or this black bay with a blue bezel, there were far fewer choices if you were attracted to the whole Tudor thing, the whole Tudor brand psyche, if you will. But now there's so many. Even the Tudor Harrods, the very limited release green bezel Tudor black bay, the prices have come down a good 30% or more since when they were at their peak just about a year ago. So something I've noticed, there are a lot of guys trying to trade Tudors and trying, I don't want to say get out of them, but looking to get into something else that is in their focal point of interest at that time. Now this next one, and we took a call about this today. There are just a lot of brands out there, guys. So this one is not necessarily a brand, but a group of brands. It's kind of just off-brand Chinese brands or Asian brands that are marketed as being high quality. And, we all can go on the internet and search for Swiss watch brands and see things that are pieced together that are not up to the same build specs and standards as a lot of micro brands, which I just did a video on. But I think this brand was called like Milano, and someone had wanted to sell about 10 of these. I'm not sure, perhaps they bought them on a cruise or something like that, where you typically find, these companies pushing brands like Philip Stein, I think it's called, and some of the others. But unfortunately, these things just don't hold any value compared to their retail. So you see generally casuals buying these brands that are solely marketing, I would say, for the most point. They might have a Swiss movement or something like that, but mostly it's marketing. Nothing to really keep on your radar as a watch collector. But casuals will buy these brands, and it goes without saying for us collectors that you can't really expect to get much out of them, and they are all over the internet trying to be sold by not mostly collectors. But if they are a collector, it's a new collector. So that one's on the radar just because it's at the top of my memory. Moving on to a brand that you'll also probably be pretty surprised about, Grand Seiko. Now, Grand Seiko is a good brand. I think for the price point, once again, they make some of the best cases you can have when they have their special finishes and the mixture of brushing and polishing. And as well as the way that they finish their movements, especially even on some of their more entry-level pieces. I think that the quality follows the entire lineup of the brand, which is something you don't see. Typically when you have an entry-level piece from a brand, you're not going to get the same thing as a high-end piece that they offer. But with Grand Seiko, that doesn't seem to be the case. They really do a great job with consistency in their watches. But once again, what I've noticed is that there are a lot of collectors that want to trade the Grand Seiko watches. Now, I don't know if it's because they would like a different Grand Seiko, or if it's perhaps something that might be a little more on the radar for what they're into. But I will notice that people that I've personally talked to and worked with will say, hey, I bought the Grand Seiko, and, it's a great watch, it's phenomenal, but it's just not something that I want to add on my daily rotation and wear. And so, in terms of watches, there are differing opinions about buying something that has a name that's incredibly popular, or buying something solely based on the quality. Grand Seiko, obviously of quality, but the name is still developing itself in the U.S. market. It still holds that cash in the history of Seiko, which sometimes collectors do look down on, but also sometimes other collectors like that. They like that it's under the radar. They like that someone might not notice it and try to steal it from them. To give you an example, so I'm noticing that Grand Seikos are coming through the door more than they have in the past, and I'm also noticing that those people that are into Rolex, Patek, AP, they'll get the Grand Seiko because it is of quality, but then they won't keep it in their collection very long, and they'll want to trade it into something else. So something I've noticed, I like the brand, I like what they do, but there are a fair amount of them floating around in the watch collector circles, forums, eBay, and of course at DelrayWatch.com. And lastly, Another kind of in the know brand, Nomos. Now, Nomos has been around since 1990. The same year that I was born, actually. So it's a fairly new brand, but they do a great job. They're produced in Germany, and they do have predominantly all in-house movements, some based on the peso movements, the manual wind movements, which Nomos originally started out with. And Nomos was a brand that I was incredibly attracted to earlier on, and I still like what they do. And so I've noticed that the Nomos type of collector, he'll either add the watch to his collection and he'll wear it from time to time, but it's very rare that I'm noticing, in my experience, that the guy that owns the Nomos is wearing it every day as his daily wear. It's kind of something interesting and unique, but once again, much like Grand Seiko, the Nomos kind of means something in the circle among collectors, and some watch guys are just not attracted to that. So for that reason, we do see more of these being traded, being sold, and also being purchased. Once again, like any of the watches on the list, if they're being traded frequently and the demand for the pre-owned models is not keeping up to the supply that is available for trade or for sale from collectors like you and I, these are great buys. They're great buys, and nothing can be said bad about a great buy. So something to consider. And if you do buy these brands, once again, I recommend, except for the Asian brands, I wouldn't recommend you buy any of those. In terms of the off-brand Asian brands. But the others, Breitling, Tudor, Grand Seiko, and Nomos, if you can get them pre-owned, once again, always a great idea, because if it doesn't stay in your collection, like the trends that I'm noticing, maybe it will, but if it doesn't, then you're not going to take a hit. So something to keep in mind, and I wanted to share that with you because you've been asking for things like this in the comments below. So once again, leave in the comments below things you'd like to hear about, whether it's in the watch industry or about specific watches, or even about just day-to-day what we do here. I would be glad to share it, and it's exciting for me and enjoyable to share one of my passions with you. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Instagram, The Real John P. It's Monday. Federico is out today, so I have a lot to do, so I will get back to that. Hopefully you enjoyed the list once again. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. You have been chatting with John P. Ciao.